Welcome to Tales from the Pillow, a calm place for unsettling stories. If you enjoy the quiet dread before sleep, subscribe and let the stories keep you company in the dark. They called her Subject 13, no name, no birthday, no family, just a number etched into a reinforced steel door and a file filled with clinical lies. Behind that door, under flickering fluorescent lights and 6 inches of shatterproof glass, a girl grew up in silence. No windows, no sunlight, just the low hum of recycled air and the distant echo of boots on concrete. From birth, she was kept at Facility K-22, a black site military installation buried under the Mojave Desert. Officially, it didn't exist. Neither did she. The first decade of her life was observation. Every breath, every movement, every inch of growth was documented. The scientists spoke in clipped, controlled tones as if their words might shape her behavior. They poked, prodded, measured, recorded. When she was 6, they gave her puzzles. At 7, they introduced pain thresholds. At 9, they injected her with a serum that made her bones ache for weeks. They called it Evo 9. The next step in human evolution. And it worked, sort of. Her strength increased, reflexes sharpened, her muscle fibers regenerated faster than they could tear. But something else grew with her, something the scientists didn't understand. Anger. She didn't speak, but she listened. To the guards, to the scientists, to the screaming in the cell down the hall that stopped one day and never returned. They thought she didn't understand, that she was some blank slate, but she remembered every face that had stood on the other side of the glass and smiled as they heard her. She remembered Dr. Kepler, who always wore lavender gloves and never looked her in the eye. Major Dorn, who ordered the sedation when she started banging her head against the walls. And Gray, the one with the soft voice, who told her once through the speaker, "It's okay, sweetheart. You're going to help the world someday." He was the only one she didn't want to kill. By the time she turned 18, they started calling her a success. The strength of 10 men, bones denser than concrete, muscle tissue that didn't fatigue. They didn't know that she had stopped taking the sedative 6 months ago, or that her mind had been awake for years, watching, planning. She waited, she obeyed, until the lock failed. It was a systems check, routine, a brief flicker in the power grid. The lights dimmed, then returned, but in that half second of darkness, she moved. By the time the emergency lights flared, the reinforced door was bent outward. The guards who arrived found nothing in the cell, but she was there, above them, watching. When the first one screamed, it was already too late. Facility K-22 had 15 active guards on the night shift. Within 20 minutes, 13 of them were dead. It began in the hallway outside cell 13, where the emergency lights still strobed red. 2 guards stood frozen at the sight of the bent steel door, unsure whether to enter or call for reinforcements. They didn't get the chance to choose. She dropped from the ceiling with the silent precision of something bred for war. One guard's neck snapped on impact. The other managed a single shout before his windpipe collapsed under her grip. She didn't pause, no panic, no hesitation. Her bare feet padded silently across the polished floor, already slick with blood. By the time the alarm sounded, she had made it through the East Wing containment corridor. Surveillance was blind. The lights flickered. Doors opened when they shouldn't have. She wasn't alone in her escape. Facility K-22 was built on secrets, and Subject 13 had never been its only occupant. She passed other reinforced doors, Cell 12, Cell 9, empty, already breached. The air reeked of ozone and something worse, freedom soaked in blood. In the central hub, Dr. Kepler stared in disbelief at the bank of monitors, static, shattered lenses. A single feed showed a hallway strewn with bodies, limbs twisted like string. He reached for the emergency lockdown switch. Too late. She was already in the room. Kepler turned just in time to see the door crumple inward like wet cardboard. Her silhouette filled the frame, eyes shining under the red emergency lights. "Please?" he stammered. "You don't have to." She didn't speak, just grabbed him by the throat, lifted him off the ground, and threw him against the wall so hard his spine snapped on impact. She stood over him a moment longer, head tilted, then moved on. Major Dorn was on the lower level, barking orders into a comm device, demanding helicopters and backup from the outer perimeter. His voice cracked when he realized the internal comms were silent. One by one, the other officers stopped responding. He turned to run. The elevator doors opened, but not for him. She stepped out, covered in blood, eyes locked on him like prey. Dorn reached for his gun. She crushed it in her hand before he could fire. He screamed. Somewhere above ground, sirens wailed in the empty desert. A black SUV skidded to a stop near the perimeter gate. 2 technicians stepped out, expecting to be briefed on a containment failure. They found the gate wide open, and no one waiting to meet them. She climbed the final staircase like it was nothing. No fatigue, no resistance, her breath even. As she reached the final corridor, alarms faded, lights buzzed and dimmed. She paused at the security doors, staring at the exit sign she had never seen illuminated. Beyond it was a world she didn't remember. But she knew one thing, it was hers now. The desert air hit her like a wave of fire. It was her first breath outside Facility K-22, and it carried the scent of dust, heat, and freedom. The moon hung low in the sky, casting her shadow long and skeletal across the sand. Her bare feet crunched against the gravel as she moved through the outer gate like a phantom. Sirens still howled in the distance, but they were fading. She was already gone. The first town was 70 miles east. She didn't go there. She wasn't ready for civilians, for faces she didn't recognize. She wanted one thing, retribution. The ones who had hurt her weren't all dead. The Corps command had fled hours before lockdown. She'd overheard it during the chaos. "Get to Black Ridge," one voice said. "We regroup at Black Ridge Station." It was all she needed. She followed on foot, didn't eat, didn't sleep. Her body healed what it needed. Her mind burned with names: Kepler, Dorn, Hallis. The faces blurred, but the voices didn't. She reached Black Ridge 4 days later. The military compound was smaller than K-22, a last resort staging site. She stood on a ridge at dusk and watched the guards move below, calm, unaware, human. She descended as night fell. The first explosion tore through the front gate, a decoy. She'd pulled wiring from an abandoned SUV and jury-rigged a makeshift charge. As guards rushed to contain it, she moved in from the side. One by one, they vanished, dragged into shadows, throats crushed, spines snapped. Inside the command center, Hallis was still barking orders. She remembered him. He'd been one of the earliest voices in her life, cold, clinical. He turned as she entered, mouth forming a command. She grabbed him before he could scream. "Subject 13, he gasped. "You're supposed to be under—" She didn't let him finish. She slammed him through a steel panel. He didn't get up. Only one remained, Gray. She found him alone in the bunker, backlit by the glow of failing monitors. He turned slowly, hands raised. "I never hurt you," he said softly. She paused. Of all the voices, his had been the only one that didn't drip with calculation. "I tried to help you." She stepped closer. He didn't flinch. "I told them what they were doing was wrong," he said. "I stayed so I could stop them." She stared at him. Blood still dripped from her hands. "You remembered my name," he said. She didn't respond. I called you Lena. The sound of it hit her like a slap. A name, a tether, something long buried. Her fists clenched, muscles twitched, but she didn't strike. She turned away. The next morning, Black Ridge was silent. No bodies, no blood, just whispers. Some say she still walks the desert, looking for the ones who built her, broke her, unleashed her. Others say she's in the cities now, blending in, watching, evolving. Whatever the truth is, one thing remains certain. She was never supposed to escape, and now she never will.